All rise.
The Kosovo Specialist Chambers is now in session.
Please be seated. Good morning and welcome back. Madam Court Officer, could you please call the case?
Good morning, Your Honors. This is case file KSC BC 2020-04, the Specialist Prosecutor versus Pjetër, Shala.
Thank you, Madam Court Officer. Very well. I would kindly ask the parties to inform us who is present today. And I start with the Specialist Prosecutor's Office.
Good morning, Your Honors. Today, for the Specialist Prosecutor, Alex Whiting, Acting Specialist Prosecutors, Maria Manolescu, our legal intern, Line Pedersen, Case Manager, and then Gaia Pergolo, Eva Wheeler, and Filippo De Minicis, Associate Prosecutors.
Thank you. Victims' Counsel, you have the floor.
Good morning, Your Honours. I'm Simon Laws, representing the victims in this case, together with my co-counsel, Maria Radziowska, and our legal associate, Kietwei Ung.
Thank you. Defense Counsel, you have the floor.
Good morning, Your Honours. Good morning, my Honours. I'm Mr. Jean-Louis Gillissen, and I am here with the same team than yesterday morning. It means, first of all, Mr. Peter Shala, of course, and then you have Mr. Elia Winnie, co-counsel, Leto Cariolu, co-counsel, Katerina Sharitu, legal officer, Zaneta Petrovica, case manager, Kaylin Cheng, assistant legal officer, Juliette Healy, evidence review assistant, Francesca De Castro, evidence review assistant, and Judith Kolb, evidence review assistant. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Defense Counsel. And the registry, please.
Good morning, Your Honors. It's Ralph Roach from Judicial Services Division. Thank you.
Thank you. And you're appearing before Trial Panel 1, and that's for the record. Yesterday, we heard the opening statements by the Specialist Prosecutor's Office and Victims' Counsel. Today, we will hear the opening statements by the defense and the answering statement of Mr. Shala. According to the decision on the commencement of the trial, you were allocated 2 hours for your opening statements. Has there been any change, any reassessment in this regard?
I think I could say it will be enough, that's sure. I hope to be shorter.
Okay, very well.
Thank you.
You are authorized to use visual aids and any other material, and we were informed that part of your material, audiovisual, will not be shown to the public. Huh? That's correct. Yeah. Okay, very well. You have the floor, Defense Counsel.
So thank you very much, my Honours. Thank you for giving me the floor. I try to hold my breath because I'm trying to hold my breath because I think so this moment is an important one for Mr. Shala. It is in reality the first time he is able to be very clear in this proceeding. And I would like to say that from the beginning of this opening statement, I would like to say I heard yesterday, I heard the emotion expressed by some speakers, my learned friend in face of me. And I would like to say that I don't have a doubt about the real desire to share for them and to make felt the pain, to report on these terrible events they were talking about, and no doubt to make you live what for I can say the misfortune of those who claim to be victims. And that's sure, I would like to add all those who are asking that finally, 20 years after the fact, justice be done. This is the point, justice be done. And I intend personally to respect that. I intend to fully respect the pain and the suffering of those who were victims. And we know that in Kosovo, in 1999, no one denies it, there were 900,000 direct victims of the abuses and cruel repression of a state policy. This is not politics to say that. This is the truth. And those people are victims of deliberate decision taken at the highest level of the Serbian state to implement a real aggression against its own civilian population. This is the truth. Nobody denies it. This is the story will tell us this terrible thing. Police, secret services, even the army, all means available to a state, but more than this, paramilitary groups, cruel paramilitary groups, who came specially from Serbia to the Kosovo, all these armed forces assault a civilian population and voluntarily committed a real general and discriminate attack against innocent people. With your leave, we can show the first picture. It's a public one. And I would like to say this picture is coming from UNHCR. It illustrates, according to me, but up to you, one of the least difficult moments for the people you see, and we choose this picture because no need to make a show in the hearing, of course. And I would like to say that as you see, that men, women, elderly, children, all those people have been subject to multiple abuses, including the most serious one. And please, no one can be wrong. I'm not out of place of topic when I refer to those horrific crimes at this point of the procedure. I have absolutely no pleasure in referring to the murders, assault committed in that time, nor the many rapes and other humiliation of all kinds that have accompanied the destruction and looting committed everywhere, in all parts in Kosovo against the Albanian-speaking population. I intend to emphasize this is not politics to proceed like this, because that's just a necessary reminder of the truth that illuminates the reason why we are gathered today to begin the judicial procedure in the Shala's case. The reason I'm talking about all those horrendous crimes is that because Mr. Shala, and in the Shala's case, we have to talk about that. Indeed, no one can understand the reason why Mr. Shala was in Albania in 1999 if it were considered that these crimes I'm talking about could not be recalled in the present case. More than that, it should also be recalled that the crimes committed against the civilian population during the wartime, 1998, 1999, were preceded by years, very long years, of a severe and merciless repression against the entire Albanian-speaking population. Whether we watch it or not, these crimes there, these terrible years of suffering are the soil of the facts that are submitted to you, my honors. It is therefore clear to Mr. Shala's defense that these crimes constitute the framework, the real framework within which the events covered by the indictment should be placed. And since, during this opening statement, I have to speak like a lawyer, I respectfully submit to you, Your Honor, that these crimes I'm talking about must be considered at the contextual background specific to this case. And you know, when I was in Kosovo, I met a good person. And he told me some wise word about that. What we suffered in 1999 and the years before is very difficult to forgive. But if you have to remember that, impossible to forget. It is also essential, I think, to remember that because it is because of all those series of unacceptable abuses and crimes that Mr. Shala made the choice to enter in an armed resistance. Your Honors, the man who is accused and will appear before you today did indeed make a choice. The man you are going to judge one day has indeed decided that it was enough. It was too much. That he could no longer bear the violence and humiliations that were imposed on him and his loved one on a daily basis. During all these years, on a daily basis. Mr. Shala, therefore, chose to oppose a criminal policy and to find those who consciously and voluntarily carry it out. This is the truth. This is the fact. This is the real thing. And so I have to underline that never, I say never, under any circumstances, would Mr. Shala have been in Cook's, a city he did not know and where he had never had reason to go, had he not one day decided that it was appropriate and necessary to resist oppression. If Mr. Shala was at Cook's in 1999, it is because he decided to continue to resist the most violation committed against his fundamental rights and those of all those he would reconcile to be his people. Shala, Peter Shala, Mr. Peter Shala did not choose to attack anyone. He chose to fight those who had chosen to aggressively use violence. Mr. Shala was a resistant. You have to note it. You have to think about that. He was a real freedom fighter who fought against an unjust aggression. The unjust aggression his fellow people were unfairly subject to. It should therefore be stressed the existence of a link of a cause and an effect between the abuses committed by some and the presence of Mr. Shala in Cook's place. And it should be stressed, too, on the nature of this link, because the defense of Mr. Shala maintains that this link must be understood and qualified, as you will retain a causal link. A causal link. Indeed, if Mr. Shala is present at Cook's in 1999, it is because something very particular. It's not because he is a criminal, a gangster, an offender, a monster, or even a delirious one. Or he had the intent to behave as such. The defense of Mr. Shala, therefore, strongly supports that he is present at Cook's in 1999 for honorable reasons. Honorable reasons, my dear colleague, my lord and friends. This is the point. Honorable reason foreign to any criminal act or project. Any criminal project is not only foreign to him, but is even contrary to the fight he has undertaken for several years. And all these years speak for him. Mr. Shala fights against some authorities and the depositories of these authorities, in that they implement a criminal policy. And I would like to add that in doing so, he was probably never done more than exercise one of the most secret rights. It means defending himself and his relatives. Mr. Shala did not choose to fight the Serb population. And he never attacked a member of the civilian Serb population or a person because he was a Serb. He is not a criminal. This is not his fighting. Your Honor, as a kind of very first conclusion in this opening statement, the defense of Mr. Shala respectfully submits that first, everyone here has to recognize the contextual background mentioned above. And second, you need to acknowledge the source and the reasons that inspire Mr. Shala's decision to enter into resistance and then armed fighting against the state authorities. Indeed, the Shala's defense do consider that these elements are essential to the understanding of the case that is submitted to you. Let's get the record straight. The defense of Mr. Shala does not share the presentation that the SPO and the Victims' Council has obviously decided to make of him. The image of Mr. Shala, the portrait, is a false one. At this stage, I can only humbly express two reflections, which I consider as essential to emphasize. First of all, I can only make a general appeal to caution. Caution, please. Because, and obviously, it's necessary. I heard yesterday some very astonishing, amazing things. First of all, my learned friends, as way of example, my learned friends from the SPO and Victims' Council spoke about a climate of witness intimidation. Intimidation. Please. Where? In the case of Mr. Shala, where? When? Who? Which moment? Which event? Only one, please, tell us. We wait for nothing, just nothing. And you know it. And to speak about a general climate of intimidation, okay, when you talk about the whole things of Kosovo, but we are in the Shala's case, please. No question to use some presumption, some proof of the case, from other case, against Mr. Shala, please. If I commit a mistake, it's time to interrupt me, to say, no, you're false. It's not good. You commit an error. But I don't commit an error. There is absolutely nothing in this case, in the files we receive, concerning a so-called intimidation committed by Mr. Shala. Never. So, I consider there is absolutely no trace, no sign of any allegation by anyone linking Mr. Shala to an intimidation. It was very important to say that, for your honors, but for the public too, for the public too. They have the right to know the truth, not a scenario, not a story. Second, the defense of Mr. Shala can only observe what appears at this stage to be a virtual absence of rigorous and substantiated information concerning the past of Mr. Shala. It's amazing to start a trial without any information. His childhood, his adolescence, his education, his entry into adult life seem decidedly as uninteresting to my honorable colleagues as the family background and intimate lives that were his. Even the circumstances of the enter of Mr. Shala in the KLA, we didn't receive anything. Not even a word. Not even a letter. Admittedly, some unpleasant thing about his past are said here and there. But nothing, absolutely nothing seems to be produced or objectify what seemed to be nothing but just rumors. Rumors. I have to confess that I'm a little concerned with the manner of proceeding, as your honor will certainly agree with me, that is largely insufficient to base a criminal case around some rumors. Moreover, I would take the liberty of showing less humility in this regard. I think that after some of the things I have heard yesterday, I must remind, I'm sorry for that, but I have to remind that Mr. Shala is and remain, until proven otherwise being any reasonable doubt, totally innocent of what he is accused. Yesterday I hear a lot of things. It's really amazing to hear that. A so simple case. It's already done. Now, this is the beginning of the trial, please. Don't forget that. I can only rejoice that the fundamental text of these honorable chambers have taken care to recall the principle of presumption of innocence. And of course, Your Honor, it is incumbent to you to translate into reality and practice this principle, because you are the protector and the guarantor of the implementation and embodiment of this principle in courts. But I have to say to all the participants in this procedure, let me say each of us, with regard to our respective role, grows up respecting this principle. Because in this way, we fully participate in justice. So please be careful. I wish to emphasize this aspect of the things because I can already at this stage indicate how problematic the statements made by certain witnesses appears to be. And I am confident that my colleagues at the prosecution's side are very well aware of this issue. Indeed, I have to recall a reality that must never be forgotten in a court of justice, even under the benefit of protections or so-called protections. A witness, regardless the horror he claimed to have suffered, a witness of truth can only contradict him or herself sparingly. Sparingly. It is more so when it relates to fundamental aspects of one's story. And if I want to remain fair and transparent, and I would like to be, it seemed to me that I must add at this stage that the passage of time in the present case can be no good. But the passage of time cannot go so far as to be used to explain the contradiction in a witness's account or in witnesses' accounts on key and fundamental issue, please. The assessment of the effect of passage of time on the quality of the evidence can only be taken in favor of the accused and not in favor of the witness to the detriment of the accused. This has to be distinguished from the assessment of another consequences of lapse of time. The consequence of this last lapse of time on the side of Mr. Shala and his defense, where the effect of time on the quality of the evidence, which is undermined or simply lost, seemed to me to only prejudice Mr. Shala and his defense. Mr. Shala, who for more than 23 years has not done anything which could put him in a position to search the truth or establish it in order to respond to the accusation and suspicion. In any case, I must observe that from the prosecution case, Your Honor will know little or nothing of the condition in which Mr. Shala entered resistance, I stated just before. The same is true of the condition in which he joined the KLA, the resistance army, which, as history told us, fought for freedom, but above all for survival of the Albanians' spoken person in Kosovo. It does not appear to be out of place at this stage of the procedure to ask what would have become. All these thousands of people who were forcibly thrown out of their home and violently expelled from their country, if the KLA has not existed and resist arm in hand, with men like Mr. Peter Shala. I am sure that I can say here that membership and fighting in the KLA is not a crime, or more precisely, has never been a crime, excepting in the eyes of the one who committed some crimes in Kosovo in 1999, of course. Moreover, on this particular topic, I could not do better than refer to the excellent, very welcome clarification that your jurisdiction made in the summary judgment delivered on the 16th of December 2022 in the case 05, concerning the fact that before these specialist chambers, the charges were never brought against the KLA. Clearing any misconception in this regard, it's very clear. And even I could say, clear as crystal. Crystal clear, therefore. Mr. Shala belonged to the KLA, that's indeed what he claimed. And we are waiting for the SPO to bring the evidence of the so-called high responsibilities that Mr. Shala would have supposedly occupied according to the prosecution. Mr. Shala told us yesterday he was laughing, but to not cry. I would be honored if the prosecutor could manage to actually provide me with the merit of this title I never had. The truth is that Mr. Shala in 1998 was seriously wounded in the fightings. He was forced to flee in the face of a counter-offensive conducted by the Serbian army and paramilitary group, which proved deadly for many KLA fighters. Tracked like all other KLA survivors, tracked in the area where he was, tracked by those who wanted to exterminate them, he had no choice but to join his then partner, and so it was Belgium, because his partner was in Belgium at the time. In Belgium, Mr. Shala did not engage in politics or activism. He did not represent the KLA and did not accompany those who represent the KLA. He did not do so because he never had the responsibilities that some would so much like to give him today. Ubi nihil nihil. It's Roman words. Difficult to translate, I understand, and I see that. Where there is nothing, there is just nothing. There is no responsibilities of Mr. Shala. He respects the law of the countries that accept him and discovered what a normal life was. Being able to go out at night without risk of being arrested and beaten for the sole reason he spoke Albanian. It was really a real discovery for him, something very new. Being able to work and to earn a living was a novelty for him, but being able to do so without being resented by the police and the militia were even more incredible. Belgium seemed to be like a sort of paradise for him. He is trying to obtain political asylum status, and in order to do so, he will, like many others in his situation, lie a little or try to improve his record. But it is clear that even the SPO cannot turn these punctually necessary lies into a proven truth, isn't it? And then there were the images of the news news about the crimes that were being perpetrated even more generally in Kosovo against its people. We are now in March 1999, of course. So, listening only to his sense of duty, Mr. Shala decided to return and leave the so-called paradise of Belgium to return to the real hell of Kosovo. He asked for no thanks or congratulations for this. He could not have done otherwise. It was unthinkable for him to stay where he was, in Belgium, while so many people were suffering. So he left with a few others who had also made the choice to return to fight and defend those when they have survived. Survive the destruction of their home, of their village, of their families. One more time, this is the reality of the things. Mr. Shala is not a monster. I don't pretend he's a hero. He's just a man. This is how Mr. Shala ends up in Durrës, Albania. And this is where the full scenario projected by the SPO begins, that during this trial, the SPO will try to objectify. What happened in Durrës? According to the prosecution scenario, because this is a real scenario, we don't know. We haven't received any information from the prosecutor, and I'm afraid to say, Your Honor, you will not know too. This is the choice of the prosecution team. We didn't receive anything, and I don't even know if the investigators have ever looked into it. But what we can read from the prosecution allegation against Mr. Shala is this: that he would arrive to Cooks, coming from Durrës, to take the command and authority within the Cooks metal factory as part as head of the brigade 128 stationed in Cooks. But, Your Honours, this is not the reality, we say. The reality, if we look at the papers of the file, particularly those coming from the investigation of the SPOs themselves, is that Mr. Shala, who wanted to go to the front line, who wanted to fight those who expels innocent people from the country, Mr. Shala quickly discovered that there is no position for him in Cooks. Absolutely no position in Cooks. The reality is, Mr. Shala believed he was being sent to the operational zone of Maastricht, and so to Cooks, the rallying point of new fighters and civilian people who wanted to join the KLA. He would not go there with joy, but he went there because it brought him closer to the front, near the borders, and that deep down, he believed he had no other choice. On the spot, he discovered the existence of 3 different organizations, or structure if you prefer. 3 different groups set up in an old factory or in proximity of it or to it. 1, an important logistics center in the metal factory. 2, the KLA's largest mobilization center in the metal factory, and a group of soldiers engaged in building a structure brigade. It was in proximity of the metal factory, but direct proximity of metal factory. If you decide, if you will decide to go on the spot, you will see the place, you will see the different places where Mr. Shala tried to find a place for him. No place for him. Absolutely no place. Very fast, Mr. Shala understood that no one was waiting for him there, and there was no place for him in any of these organizations. Fortunately for him, he recognized one of the main managers of the logistic groups that was in the old factory and was able to get in touch with him. We had to prove that, and we will prove that. His wish being to join the front to fight there, he asked this officer, who knew him as a veteran, to allow him to obtain a weapon to be able to join the fighter at the borders and to fight on the front line. We know that this is how. He got a gun, and how he left Cooks and the old factory without ever assuming any form of responsibility or role there. He stay on the front line only by joining from time to time some fighters or one other KLA scam to recharge and recover and continue to fight. To fight in these exceptional conditions and circumstances of trouble and great disorganization that was dominant at that time. And this is an important one. All of us know, because we saw some broadcasting to the TV, we read some book and so on, it was really one of the most important difficulties for the KLA. To federate the fighters. A lot of groups act like free electrons. Fighters, or group of fighters, behaving like real free electrons were then quite common, and it was one of the organizational difficulties for the KLA to manage to federate them in these so difficult and uncertain times. So Mr. Shala only passed by the Cooks metal factory and was in no way stationed there. He would have spent a very few nights here and there because it was an unpleasant place without development. Everyone who goes on the spot is able to see that. All the people there pass through, excepting some people in the warehouse from the logistic group and the officer to the mobilization center. It was an unpleasant place, and there were just warehouse, as I said, and a kitchen. I forget the kitchen where it was possible to eat, but not even a real dormitory. You saw it. You were on the spot. Not even a real dormitory. And we know by the files that the people who will include in the KLA were obliged to sleep on the concrete. And Mr. Shala absolutely denies ever having been a member of the Brigade 128. So his ties with the Cooks metal factory were quasi non-existent. We saw yesterday the SPO 3D maquettes. I have to say, what a nice work. Congratulations, really, really. But there is always a but with Defense Council. I'm sorry. But I think that for the person who never visited the spots of the old meter factory, the most interesting are not represented. Inside the building, there is no representation. And that's what we wanted you be able, and we wanted you will be able to see. Of course, in these famous rooms or office, to see exactly the interior of the building, the dimension of the room, and the state of these rooms. You have to know that even now, the furniture is still in place. And then when I read some statement of the people who claim to be victims, I have the feeling it's impossible to have so many people they describe in this room. 8, 10, 12, it depends of the statement, because we have a lot of variation. And I would like to know, really, I hope to see it, the version of the day, like in a restaurant, we will have at the hearing. So, according to us, my honors, you understand the visit is essential for an assessment of the evidence you have to make. It is the same for the issue of the alleged presence of a prison in Cook's metal factory. Mr. Shala claimed he only learned about this allegation during the course of investigations. Mr. Shala explained he never saw or learned about the existence of a prison in the Cook's metal factory, nor did he see anything that would have made him believe or understand the possibility of the existence of such a prison. And you know that in addition, he affirms that he never took part in interrogation sessions or torture scenes of any kind. Of course, I hear to laugh my dear colleague of the SPO. Mr. Shala, we heard yesterday, is denying the accusation, so in the fact that he denies, you have to see something about his guilt. I just have to say that, you know, Your Honor, Mr. Shala is actually not the one to make this allegation. This is not a statement of Mr. Shala alone against all the people. Indeed, on all these topics, the greatest majority of the people interviewed by the SPO itself makes the same affirmation. And the SPO interviewed a large number of persons who have spent time in Cook's metal factory or in the Brigade 128. And I have to say that it appears that the vast majority of these witnesses, most of which the SPO choose not to call to testify, of course, simply contradict the prosecution allegations. People stationed at the Cook's metal factory because they were working on the logistic or in the mobilization say that they don't know Peter Shala. They don't know a so-called Ushku or saw him rarely there. Those people and more from the Brigade 128, 128, confirm that, and the fact that Peter Shala was not a member of this brigade, never been a member of this brigade. Those people would have known Peter Shala, or would have seen him if he was a member of the brigade, of course. The vast majority, I prefer to say the vast majority of the people interviewed by the SPO didn't confirm and absolutely denied the existence of a prison inside the factory. They confirm or denied. You have the choice. They didn't confirm or denied. If and when asked, these people deny the holding of interrogation of people, let alone accompanied by beating inside the offices building or anywhere inside the Cooksmeter factory. I don't know what was the reality. But one thing is sure. This proves at least one thing: the existence, the presence, and the functioning of a prison in Cooksmeter factory was definitively not obvious. And Mr. Shala's statement about this suddenly appear to be extremely credible. No need to laugh. This is one of the big difficulties we have to face in our trial. These people confirm that the Cooksmeter factory was a logistic base which received hundreds of soldiers passing by every day. They passed by every day to be mobilized and sent to the front line day after. And how many of these so many witnesses, direct witnesses, appears or will appear in the hearing? No one. No one. The Cooksmeter factory was closed at night. We know that. We have to prove, but we all know that. And the officer building was a place where soldiers and officers slept in very basic conditions. We will prove it. The interrogation and beating of people where Albanian and KLA military officer would sleep is absolutely unrealistic, especially as alleged to be placed every night, all night long, for several weeks. All these interviewed people confirm through the evidence that there was no place for Mr. Shala and that there was no Mr. Shala in that place. This is the reality that the SPO has received from asking about the Cooksmeter factory, and this is the reality against which the SPO is bringing its allegation against Mr. Shala. In fact, this is most probably why the SPO chose not to call this evidence and sometimes even withdrew it after announcing he could call this evidence. The SPO even withdrew the only possibility for your honors to hear the evidence of a witness who has footage of the reality of Cooksmeter factory during the indictment period. This is telling, your honors. The SPO is advancing its allegation concerning Mr. Shala against this panoply of contrary evidence he collects himself. The SPO is advancing its allegation concerning Mr. Shala against the reality. But we have noted that yesterday, once again, the prosecutor changed his case. He changed his case. Now Mr. Shala is no more present of all times. That's absolutely a new thing. It's done yesterday for the first time. And his authority and role inside the Cooksmeter fabric has diminished. Absolutely new. Ça vient de sortir, dit-on, we say in French. Well, the SPO made one step closer to the reality, and I thank them, but there is still a long way to go, you know. Because the SPO made confusion and contradictory submission when he alleged Mr. Shala was not stationed there, but still participated at least in 10 incidents of beating in 14 days. 10 in 14 days, that's the point, huh? If I've committed a mistake, you have to interrupt me, it's not a problem. And more than this, yesterday, we heard the SPO allege that Mr. Shala participated in the bulletproof vest incident after specifically withdrawing this allegation of the indictment. When I say contradiction, when I say confusion, it seems very confused, but I'm sure we will understand at the moment we have to understand it. This surprise, I'm sorry. This surprise is not the only one. The same goes for the alleged victims in the case, Your Honor. With the exception of one particular person he knows from long before 1999 war, Mr. Shala was very surprised to hear or read to have been part of detaining or beating some people because he never met them. You have to understand, that's amazing, that accepting this very special witness he knows for a long time, there is a couple of persons, 2 persons, who recognize Mr. Shala. I'm sorry, who person to claim, who said that Mr. Shala detaining or beating them, but they didn't recognize him. That's really amazing, and the surprise of Mr. Shala to see that is quickly dissipated when Mr. Shala and his lawyer, by the way, would discover the kind of personality and character of this old acquaintance and what he was up and from before the war to this present day. Mr. Shala. Thank you very much to show this picture. It's confidentially to Your Honours. And when we are able to see this new document, yes, this is the one. What a work. What a wonderful work of investigators. Really, never saw that. They show the people a guy with the name Ushku on the gun. Is he Mr. Shala? Of course, of course. He is Mr. Shala, accepting. He is not. Everybody now is aware of that. Everybody is aware of that. This is not the accused. This surprise is dissipated when you read the description given by the third of Mr. Shala. And here again, I show it confidentially to Your Honours. This is the third document we have to show. No, c'est pas celui-là. Hein? I think it is the one who was the first one. Yes. Yeah, this one. Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. This is the description given by the third of Mr. Shala, a witness. The number was pronounced by my learned friend yesterday a lot of time. You have to read the description of Mr. Shala. That's more than amazing. That's just a crazy thing to see that. And this is nowhere near any attributes or description of the accused appearance. This is the high quality of some witnesses produced by the investigators and the SPO. And I repeat, I know I repeat myself. But if you want to avoid to commit a mistake, you have to repeat it. There is 3% who accused Mr. Shala. One. The other one with the picture is unable to recognize him. When you are put on a hook, when you are put on a hook and you are pending, the guy who put you on the hook, you'll recognize him. We know that. We know that because some case about the Second World War explain it. You have the picture of the guy who makes something like this. This one was unable to recognize the one who beat him so much. Finally, it is important to note that the other people alleged by the SPO to have been detained at Cook's Meter factory do not talk at all about Peter Shala or Ushku. They do not identify Peter Shala on photos and do not even know the name Peter Shala and or the nickname Ushku. The same. If I've committed a mistake, you have to interrupt me. It's not a problem. I'm not here to try to make something bad. Even more, Your Honours, it appears that some people alleged by the SPO to have been detained in Cook's Meter factory denied that. They denied that. But one surprise did not dissipate until today. This is a surprising lack of quality of the investigation conducted about this case. The previous investigations that the SPO inherited from its predecessor and the future investigations that the SPO made confirm that the reality lies elsewhere. But the SPO made the surprising choice to put forward an accusation against Mr. Shala despite all this. To do so, he has performed what I previously described you remember, it's possible, just to remember, as the best of the evidence that serves his case. And doing so, he set aside every and all other evidence to the contrary, which was far more. So, our grief and our reproaches to the investigation are not limited to those conducted by the SPO, but also those which precede them. First, those investigations that were targeting in the establishment of the so-called organ trafficking cases. From reading of the material disclosed to the defense, it appears clear that the objective was to build accusation against high-level personality belonging to the KLA, but to build it on the basis of very questionable testimony from individuals, we have to prove it, don't mind, individuals emanating from the drug trafficking and organized criminal sphere. This was so unrealistic and fantasist that the investigators themselves moved away from it. Change their statement. And you know, this is amazing, but what is really a problem? That this witness adapt the statement without to appeal anyone. Without to appeal anyone. What kind of investigators, and I know that's professional investigators, what kind of investigators is that? The same, you will see, this famous witness provides some new information, and some of the investigators, real professional, ask the witness, oh, so you change it, how was it possible? Are you able enough to explain? And the answer, every time, is the same. Oh, I received this information. I have the name of the guy who provided me the information. I have the new document I received home. I will bring back it to you. Never, not even one time, never. The investigators receive this document or the name of the sources of the new variation in the statement of the witness. But more than this, that's amazing, that's sure. If it was not a criminal case, we have to laugh. The investigators don't ask a second time or a third time to obtain the information. No interest for them. The problem is that's very, very interesting during a trial. Because, of course, the quality of the proof during the investigation or the pre-trial is not the same than during a trial, of course. Finally, our reproaches to the investigation are even stronger towards the choices of the SPO themselves. The SPO has sought, at all cost, to validate and credibilize his chosen scenario, at the price of ignoring numerous existing elements or even the opportunity to explore them. Every element of proof contradicting or likely to weaken the chosen scenario incriminating Mr. Shala has simply been discarded with no valid reason. I think, I argue that it is inexplicable and unacceptable when the aim is to discover the truth. And when we see that the SPO, conscious of this problematic and questionable state of this case against Mr. Shala, will go further, it was really incredible this time. Outside the period of indictment, outside the indictment period, the SPO fished, this is the word, fished, for what he called corroborating evidence dealing with more rumors from 1998. We are talking about facts allegedly committed in 1999. Your Honor will be attentive to the fact that this has been done at the later stage of the pre-trial phase. Person to arrest Mr. Shala than bin Laden when the US authorities sent some people to arrest or to kill him. It was a real army. And I understand, I know a little bit, some policemen, it's okay, it's a pleasure, of course, to show muscle and the arms, the gun and so on. But please, not to damage the people. Perfect innocent. The wife of Mr. Shala and the children. So, in 1999, so...
Defense counsel,
Yeah.
I would like to go into private session just for 2 minutes.
Yeah, sure.
Madam Court Officer, could we go into private session, please?
Your Honor, we're now in public session.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Your Honor. So this period in 1998, this is a period where professional investigators from the ICT, while exploring the evidence, have come up with a picture of Mr. Shala at the time. I would like to have the other image. Perfect, thank you very much. And here again, it shows you the photo board confidentially, Your Honor, to see that the picture number 2, is far, of course, being Peter Shala. And you know what? You know what, Your Honor? Some protected witness still recognize this picture to be Peter Shala the wolf. One more time, this is against all evidence. The recognition made is again all evidence. You will hear, Your Honor, that the surname Shala is not unique in Kosovo and Albania, but very common. You will also hear that the nickname the wolf is also common for Albanian fighters in the different documents we receive from the SPO itself. We discover the multiple similar nicknames, meaning wolf, of course, Ushku, Uki, Uka, Ukai, Vuk, and so on for other persons. The wolf, it's a name very used by these fighters, but we also discovered the existence of some other fighters than those who are in the prosecution files. And one of the best examples is the Ushku, whose statue is placed in the center of Pristina on the main Mother Teresa Street. And for sure, this Ushku is not Peter Shala. It is public knowledge. To sum up, Your Honor, a criminal case, of course, be fed cannot be fed with rumors or gossip. The guilt of an accused on a criminal charge has to be proven, I'm sorry to say that you know it perfectly well, beyond reasonable doubt, and this means solid and strong element of proof which eliminate any other reasonable alternative or scenario. A criminal charge of this kind has to be proven by bringing the first-hand evidence emanating from the knowledgeable people who have been there and know about the reality. That's true. That's so simple. Not, never. By omitting the relevant evidence, or calling peripheral hearsay for questionable source, from questionable source, or people varying this story several times, so many times. Your Honors, from the outset of this trial, we made the choice, or we tried to make the choice, to be very clear and transparent in our position. And we intend to continue to do so. We could have remained silent, and we were not required to make a pre-trial brief of the quality we made, because I think it's a real one, and an opening statement. And Mr. Shala could also have chosen not to make an unsworn statement. We could also have delayed taking any position in a brief or in a statement to after the presentation of the SPO case. But we have nothing, absolutely nothing to hide, Your Honors. Because the defense of Mr. Shala and Mr. Shala himself want to search the truth and the discovery of the truth. Because we firmly believe that it is the reality and the truth that will bring back justice to Mr. Shala. And as a final conclusion to this opening statement, I wish to reaffirm my faith that together, all together, we will find the truth. That's sure. I thank you for the time and attention, Your Honor, and with your leave, Mr. Shala will utter some words at this stage. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Defense Counsel. Could you indicate how much time Mr. Shala will need for his answering statement?
I had the feeling Mr. Shala will make an intervention of maximum 5 minutes. I think so.
Okay.
But
yes, I understand. Now, what we will do now, we will have a break till half an hour, and then there will be time for the answering statement of Mr. Shala, and then there's still something we wanted to discuss that was left pending from yesterday with regard to the 2 days that we might be hearing witnesses. So for now, the hearing will be adjourned, and after, when we come back, Mr. Shala, you will give your answering statement. Yeah, the hearing is adjourned.
All rise.
Please be seated. Okay, welcome back. I have a look at the composition. I see that the SPO is the same. I see Mr. Prosecutor nodding. The same goes for Victims' Counsel. You're in the same composition very well. And here at the defense side.
Good morning, Your Honor. We have a slight change in our composition for
Very
this
well.
session. Ms. Judith Colby is not in the courtroom for this session, and we are joined by our yet another intern, yet from Paris, Ms. Camille Gosson. Thank you, Your Honors.
Thank you very much. We are now going to proceed with the unsworn statement of Mr. Shala. Mr. Shala, before I give you the floor, I want to remind you that we will not allow for statements of a political nature. You should not be offensive in your statements with regard to the victims, the Specialist Prosecutor's Office, or the panel, or the Specialist Chambers as an institution. Please make your comments and your unsworn statement relevant to the case. And if there is any information which is confidential, please do not divulge that in public. Just a reminder. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Your Honours. Thank you for giving me the floor. I wish to thank you again. I am here in front of you because I respect the course of justice, and I'm not trying to evade it. I have never tried to do that. I have never, ever done what I've been charged with. Never, ever. What has been charged in the indictment is not something I have done. It is all unknown to me. I was a simple fighter for freedom, for the freedom of my country and my people. Nothing more and nothing less, no more no less than that. I fought against a police and criminal machinery of a criminal regime led by Milosevic, but not against any civilians. Never. If this institution is going to find me guilty for fighting on behalf or for the freedom of my country, and it's fine, but slandering me is not a method that I subscribe to. It is not a method that I have adopted, and neither has any of the fighters of the Kosovo Liberation Army. We have never fought against civilians. The accusations that have been raised against me are completely unknown and have got nothing to do with me. 2 words now with regard to the Special Prosecutor. I have been living for 25 years now, or a quarter of a century, in a democratic country, in Belgium. The prosecutor's job in the country where I live is to investigate, to submit the evidence and to search for the justice, not to fabricate facts. Where I live, this is a punishable offence. As far as the specialist chambers or this institution at large, I have to admit that I have not supported it in the past. However, fate has dictated that I'm here in front of you. And if a little justice exists here, I expect that justice to result in my innocence. Let me undoubtedly reassure you that I'm entirely innocent of all the charges raised against me or allegations made in this procedure. Your Honours, thank you for your attention. That's all I had to say.
Thank you, Mr. Shala. You may be seated. Defense Counsel. The opening statements with this are concluded for you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Very well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very well. For now, we have concluded the opening statements of all parties and Victims' Counsel. Before we will conclude and before I will adjourn the hearing till the end of March, there is one issue I would like to discuss with you, and I will also give you the possibility to raise any points that we would need to discuss in addition. Mr. Prosecutor, can I give you the floor with regard to the point of yesterday with regard to the 2 hearing days, if we could use them in the proposed matter?
Yes, Your Honor. We, of course, are available to, in principle, to sit these days and to bring witnesses. We have contacted potential candidates for these days, of course, taking into account the limited amount of time, as Your Honor said, also pointed out. And another consideration, it's also that there is a rationale behind our order of proof. The reason why we would like to hear a witness before another one, and because we believe it helps the narrative. So, but we have identified a couple of candidates who could be slotted on those days with no prejudice to that, and which would, the time would probably, hopefully, be sufficient. We haven't heard back yet. We might need a few days to know if these witnesses are available to testify. So we'll let Your Honors know as soon as we have some concrete information, some final information that we can convey to the panel. And we welcome Your Honor's directions as to how you would like us to convey that, whether by way of an official filing or via email.
I think a filing would be the best, because then it's on record, and this discussion is also on record. So I would have a preference for that.
Very well.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for the readiness to go forward with this. Victims' Counsel, we will be adding the 2 days to the schedule, but I wanted to give you the possibility to say if there are difficulties in this regard.
No difficulties from our point of view, but thank you for asking us, Your Honor.
And the defense?
Our team will be available for both dates, Your Honor.
Very well, thank you. Is there something else the parties would like to raise with the panel? Mr. Prosecutor.
No, Your Honor.
No.
Thank you.
Very well. Victims' Counsel, something for us?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just to thank you for the time and attention. Thank you very much. Nothing from our side.
Thank you. This concludes today's hearing. We will meet again on the 27th of March with the presentation of the evidence, as we have decided in our decision on the commencement of the trial. And then the last thing I would like to mention is our thank to the stenographer, the interpreters, the security and the audiovisual personnel, and of course the CMU. Thank you very much. The hearing is adjourned.
All rise.